Hi and welcome to week 2 of Positive Abundance Manifestation. So last week we talked a lot about positive mindset, but today I thought we'd go a little bit into my story about how I've changed around. I've said in a lot of my videos I'm not perfect because I want to get that message out that not anyone in the world is not perfect. Yes, some people are closer to perfection and having the most perfect life than I am and many others are, but it's so important we recognize that we're going to make mistakes along the line. I can claim to be positive, but I still have negative thoughts. Even this morning I woke up not feeling great, and what I did, part of my positive mindset journey, was talk myself through that and say, well, actually I shouldn't be feeling that way. I talked about all the good things I have achieved so far in my life and just recently, and that helped me with my positive mindset, and it turned me around this morning. So don't think I sit here and think, oh yes, I have abundance theory, I'm a millionaire, I've got this beautiful Lamborghini. I don't have any of that, and I'm single. I'm not even in a relationship at the moment, though I do have 2 fantastic children who live with, one lives with me, so it's really good life. I enjoy who I am. I love who I am. I want all those other things, and they are coming. I know they're coming because I deserve it, and I keep telling myself I deserve it. I know that this seems like I focus on people who are generally pretty good people, but I also want to reach those people who are not, who know that they don't do well in life in terms of relationships and stuff, and maybe they can't accept it, or maybe they do but don't admit it, that a lot of the problems they have are from themselves, and we should blame ourselves, because even because I've suffered a lot of abuse in my life. Now as a child I won't accept that any of it was my fault, but definitely as an adult I could have made decisions that would have bettered my life, but I didn't. But I have to take responsibility for that, not for the abuse, but for how I acted, how I kept going, you know, these sorts of things. But the thing about making these having these negative thoughts is that we can change them around. It's okay to feel negative about ourselves. It's okay and normal to feel negative about ourselves. It's normal, and I hate using the word normal. It's typical that we all have these negative thoughts, these self-doubts about what we're doing, the person we are, the relationship we're in. We all have these thoughts. Even happily married people sometimes have a negative thought about their relationship, and then they move on from it. It is a small segment of time in their lives. So as I said before, I went through especially most of it emotional. There's some physical abuse there, but I went through a lot of abuse in my life, a lot being emotional, and in terms of my childhood, which I'll probably talk about predominantly because it's the thing that set myself up for my life, was a lot of emotional telling me I'm not good enough. There was physical aggressive abuse there as well, but more on the emotional side. I think that's what continued on in my thought patterns and how I felt with my self-worth, my self-esteem. Over time, if you are subjected to the same abuse constantly, you will start to believe what those people say, even though in your head you are saying you shouldn't, but you do, and it just has a psychological effect on you. And when you're told you're stupid, you're no good, you're never going to be success, you're ugly, whatever it is that those words are, and I know there's probably a lot of you out there that have gone through the same thing. I don't want to be a victim here. I want to talk about this, to talk how I got over it, how I became more positive about myself. I'm not there yet. I'm no way near the finished product, but I am positive about myself. And when I say to you, I love myself, that is true. And it's so important. How can I love other people if I don't love myself? You have to learn to love yourself first before you can try and show love to others. You can try to show love to others, but until you're really successful in love, you need to love yourself. And as I in my first video I said that I used to smile a lot. I used to camouflage. I was a chameleon. You know, I hid away, camouflaged myself away from people, and then when I was with people, I smiled, funny. I used humour to help me. The thing for me, I've always had an inner strength. I never had the support. I mean, I played football. That was all about me pushing myself. Now, I never made it to the highest level, but I was pretty good as a kid. And when I came to a stop where I was axed from an academy, I kind of stopped. I stopped believing in myself in terms of football. It wasn't meant to be. Whereas if I had someone who was supportive in my life when I was feeling the way I was, I wasn't strong enough in terms of emotion to push myself to go, all right, well, we'll try this next. Even though I had those thoughts, I kept coming up with the negative, oh no, I'm not going to be successful there. That's not going to work. So these types of thoughts always attacked me. And as a teenager, that's quite volatile, because it put me in a really stressful position. And I made some choices back then that I don't regret. It's not regret, it's that I'm glad I came through what I came through. And the thing is that when I got to that adult level, all I wanted to do was to please my father. Now I can feel I can talk about my father because he's no longer with us, but you know, it's I felt that if I pleased him, then I would be happy. But to be honest, I had to please myself. I mean, I went and did a business degree because he was in business, but actually I want to do teaching, and in the end I was a teacher, which is what I promote here. But I didn't go and get my teaching degree until I was 27. That's how old I was before I could become myself. Before, instead of running around after everyone, I become myself. And again, I wanted change back then, and this is another thing that happened. I'd taken a voluntary redundancy from a job I had, and I was just driving in the car probably a couple of days after that redundancy, and over the radio it said a new teaching course starting up next week. They still have places. If you want to go to the university, they are accepting people coming in and putting in applications today. So if you want to go, and I was like 5 minutes from this university, and I thought, it's what I want to do, let's do it. Abundance theory came in there. So you don't always have to be in the best place to achieve that abundance. I was looking for something in my life. I'd taken this voluntary redundancy. I hadn't had a job. I didn't have a job to go to. I had a bit of cash, so I thought I'd have a nice holiday for a little while. I'd been through a divorce earlier, and I thought, yeah, this is what I want. And I did it, and I achieved a 4-year degree in teaching, and went on to be successful. Came taught over here in England and Spain as well as Australia before, and you know, outstanding. Was able in behaviour management. Have done well in autism as well. So a lot can come from one single choice. It's great me sitting here in hindsight saying, well, I made that choice, but at the time it was like this is an opportunity. I cannot stop this. I'm only going on a 5-minute drive to the shop. I wasn't on a long drive. It just was so coincidental that, you know, again, the source, I mean, I'd say God, but, you know, the divine source led me to it. It was an opportunity, and I stepped forward. I could have ignored that opportunity, and then it would have been interesting to see what life path I would have taken if I had ignored that. I'm not saying they were easy times, because I was at full-time university as a 27-year-old, not owning a house. So financially, it wasn't it wasn't the best decision in my life, but it was the best decision for my life. And that sometimes you have to take a risk. Even then, at that point, even making good positive choices, I was still very much the person who would hide my emotions. I got very much more into spiritual, you know, clairvoyance, because I have had clairvoyant and psychic things that happened to me as a child and through teenagehood. So it was part of me anyway. It is part of me. And so I got involved in that sort of stuff as well, and that made me look at myself a lot more, because you can't hide in that. The truth is there. You have to acknowledge the truth, and that is the key thing about positive mindset. You can keep correcting your negative thoughts, but you have to accept the real you. Now, if the real you isn't perfect, that's okay. You are not the only one that's not perfect. Yeah, we all are. We're all in the same boat. It might not be the same thing as you. We might all be different, but you have to accept you, and then you can move forward. Where if you keep denying yourself and like blaming other people for things that happen to you, sometimes, I mean, there's obviously blame other people have to take in particular circumstances, like abuse. It is the abuser's fault for abusing you, but we have to take some responsibility how it came about, why we didn't stop it, why we didn't leave, or stuff like that. We have to accept some responsibility, not for the abuse. So please don't get me wrong. We should accept responsibility for anyone who abuses us. No, that's them. But what I'm saying is accepting our part. What could have I done to get away from that abuse? They're the thing. So please don't let you think that I'm saying accept that. By no means should anyone abuse anyone. The key thing I look for in relationships is 50-50 balance. What I want from my partner is what I want to give them. I want to get the same back, and that's why equal relationships. At points in our lives when we're in relationships, it's all going to be about one person, and you know, not to always think about it being negative. It could be cancer related. It might be all about one person, the other one's more nurturing towards that person, or it might be about a work thing. They might be going for a promotion, so they might need more effort in the other partner picking up a lot of the housework and all the cooking duties, so they can focus on attaining the job. There's things like that where it swings and roundabouts in relationships, but over the course of the whole relationship it should be 50-50, and it's about respect. But anyway, you know, in terms of trying to appease other people, like for example my father in my case, always looking to get his approval. Pretty much my dad said once that he gave me a hug and said he's proud of me and he loves me, but that was after I was involved in a fire engine accident where I wasn't in the truck, but one of our appliances was crashed while we were out on duty, and one of my best friends died in that crash, and he didn't know who it was. They wouldn't say the name of the fatality over the radio, and when they saw me it was just a gush of love. That was pretty much the only time he showed me the affection I craved for as a child, but I was in my early 20s then. and as his life went on, I tried to talk to him about it, and he just ignored it, said it's all my fault. So pretty much our relationship was done at that level, on a father-son relationship. So we shouldn't be trying to please other people. We should be trying to please ourselves without being selfish. It can't always be about ourselves. Sometimes we need to compromise, especially when in a relationship. You have to compromise. It can't always be about you. But if you've got a good partner there, you can voice what your needs are, and they might be able to compromise. Say, yeah, I'm quite happy to help you along that way. Yeah. But don't be selfish, and that's where arguments and makes people feel not loved and things like that. But getting through all this was the use of I statements. Self-regulation was the key to my turning around my mindset, using I statements. Now, I can give you a practical thing where, as a teacher, with my kids, especially the kids that I was teaching, a lot of them were full-time excluded from school, so they were behaviour kids with issues. But just remember, behaviour is a form of communication. You have to work out what the emotion or the reason is behind that behaviour. We shouldn't judge people by their behaviour. We should judge them by what is behind it. We can't condone negative behaviour like abuse, physical things like murder and stuff like that. We have to judge them on their behaviour, but there is always something underlying behind it, either an emotion or an experience that has caused an emotion, and then therefore the behaviour. But I used I statements, and one of the things I always told the adults in education on my training courses was that emotional language is so important. We should be using in all relationships, and specifically with ourselves, the words care, respect, love, the list goes on. All those fantastic, lovely, positive words that we could use to other people, and the care word was the one I started with my kids. I spoke to the adults working in the classroom and said, this is what we're going to do. We're going to use I statements with these kids. Every time we needed to correct their behaviour, and unfortunately in those sets we did need to correct it, we would use an emotional statement. So for example, a child like leaning back on their chair, which is a very minor thing, on that we might say, I care about your safety, 4 feet on the floor, that sort of thing. And the one thing I wanted to test whether emotions work, so that's why I focus on the word care. A term or 6 months later, I can't quite remember the timing, but we asked the kids to write on a post-it what it is that I think about them. Every child in the class wrote the word care, because we used it so much. We had used it so much that that's what they thought. They thought I cared about them. So if we tell people that we love them, we tell people that we respect them, we tell people that we're proud of them, that we care about them, then they're going to believe it. Exactly the same as you're stupid, you're an idiot, you're not going to be successful, you're going to fail, you're not very good looking. If we keep telling those things, they're going to believe those things. And I've lived on both sides of that. But in terms of the positivity, I had to do that myself. We shouldn't be waiting for other people to tell us those lovely things about ourselves. We should start with ourselves. You know what the good things of you are. If you could probably list all the negative things about you, but I'm sure there are some good things about you. You need to write them down and start saying I statements about you, including those good things. And then your list of good things about you will start to grow, and include those. So that's how I started. I started with the things, because I know I'm a caring, empathetic person who will do anything for anyone. I always have been like that. And I started with that. I said, look, I care about you, Paul. You're a really caring person. I used I statements. You know, I'm really good at looking after others. I'm a very respectful person. All those sorts of I statements. And it does work. You tell yourself these things daily, hourly, minutely sometimes, especially when you're really upset at something that's really happened. Get involved in yourself. Tell yourself that you're a good person. Yeah, there's things that we are going to do that are wrong. I mean, it's not wrong, but they're mistakes that we make. Don't criticize yourself over it. Acknowledge that you've made a mistake and what you did was wrong, and acknowledge that to a person if it affects another person. But do not let that emotion get you down. You turn around and say, I've made a mistake, that's okay, but I know I'm a really caring person. So those I statements and stuff like that, using emotional language, is really, really important. So hopefully I've given you a little bit of insight into how to draw those things on from really sad situations. The use of I statements. Write a list of all the positives about you. At a later point, write a list of when you're feeling secure in yourself. Write a list of the things that maybe you don't feel very good at, and see if you can turn some of those negative thoughts about yourself into a positive thought. But we wouldn't do that at the start. Just focus on the things you do know that are good. You are good at. What are the things you're good at? And start telling yourself. I do daily meditations. I know I keep advertising it on here, but they are working. I do them myself. I don't just put them on the internet every morning. First thing I do is I do my daily meditation, 6 minutes. It doesn't take a lot of time of my day, and I want to be abundant. I want to have a positive mindset. I do have a positive mindset. I am abundant because I've become to be gracious in the fact that I have abundance. I have a house over my head. I might not be affluent financially. I might not have a relationship, but I have other relationships, my kids, and I am lucky, and I have to accept I am abundant already. I want more, and I can ask for more. So be positive, sending loving and healing thoughts to you all. Light and love. Goodbye for now.